They called it a lost cause. Some sacrifices are forced until the overlooked builds an empire. They called me a dreamer back then, a wide-eyed idealist. Maybe they weren't wrong. My name is Kevin, and for most of my life, my heart belonged to North Philadelphia, to the crumbling stoops and the empty storefronts that whispered stories of what once was. I saw beyond the decay, though. I saw potential, a vibrant pulse beneath the broken concrete. From my early 20s, fresh out of college, I poured every ounce of myself into community organizing, into advocating for social justice, for urban renewal. It wasn't just a job. It was a calling, a fever in my bones. I walked those streets every day, knocking on doors, organizing block cleanups, fighting for better schools, for green spaces, for anything that could breathe life back into a neighborhood the city had long forgotten. My hands were often dirty, my clothes sometimes stained with paint or dust, but my spirit felt clean, purposeful. Sarah, my wife at the time, saw it differently. Sarah was all sharp angles and ambition, a corporate lobbyist with an uncanny ability to navigate the gilded halls of power. She moved in a world of sleek suits and polished rhetoric, a world where the bottom line was the only gospel. My grassroots efforts, my endless meetings in dusty community centers, my passion for the people who had nothing, she called it naive. A professional liability, she'd often say, her voice a cool, measured tone that could cut deeper than any shout. She'd look at my worn jeans and the modest apartment we shared, then glance at the luxury cars driving by her office building, and a shadow would cross her face. She wanted more, not just for herself, but for me, or at least, the version of me she thought I should be. My lack of material wealth, my consistent sacrifice of personal gain for the public good, it wasn't just a difference in lifestyle. It was a fundamental clash of values that festered beneath the surface of our lives. The subtle undermining began almost imperceptibly, a slow drip of doubt into my well of conviction. It started with her raised eyebrow when I'd come home late, exhausted but exhilarated from a successful community meeting. Her questions weren't about the impact I'd made, but about what I had gained, what tangible return there was on my investment of time and energy. "Kevin," she'd say, her voice laced with a frustration she tried to mask, "you're so talented, so intelligent. Why are you wasting it on these small-time projects? You could be influencing policy at a state level, making real money, commanding respect." She'd invite me to her corporate galas, then subtly critique my conversational style, my inability to schmooze with the right people who didn't care about the plight of a single mother trying to keep her electricity on. She wanted me to be a different man, a man who fit into her world, a man whose ambition mirrored her own. I tried to bridge the gap, to explain the profound satisfaction of seeing a neglected park transformed, of helping a family stay in their home, of empowering residents to find their own voice. But her eyes would glaze over, her attention drifting to her phone, to emails from influential clients. My victories, my small triumphs that felt monumental to me, were just inconvenient distractions to her, proving points for her arguments about my supposed lack of ambition. She'd often dismiss my meticulously planned proposals as charming but unrealistic, even going so far as to subtly plant seeds of doubt about my leadership within shared social circles. I remember once, I was trying to secure a small grant for a youth mentorship program, and she offhandedly mentioned to a mutual acquaintance, someone who worked for a local foundation, that Kevin's heart was in the right place, but he sometimes got lost in the weeds, implying I lacked the strategic vision needed for larger projects. It stung, a deep, cold ache that made me question not just her loyalty, but my own judgment. Had I been too naive, too trusting? Was my idealism truly a weakness? The doubt was a persistent hum in the background of my life, growing louder with each passing day. The hum became a roar the day she left. I came home from a long day, my mind buzzing with plans for a new initiative, the smell of damp earth from a community garden project still clinging to my clothes. The apartment was too quiet. Her side of the closet was empty. A note, typed and impersonal, lay on the kitchen counter. She had met someone, a powerful state senator, someone who understood her ambition, someone who could provide the life she deserved. My idealism, the note coldly stated, would never amount to anything tangible. It was a professional liability, a dead end. That last sentence, a precise, calculated blow, echoed every doubt she had ever planted, every fear I had ever harbored about my life's work. The world tilted. The air left my lungs. The betrayal wasn't just personal. It was an indictment of everything I believed in, everything I had sacrificed for. I stood there, utterly hollowed out, the note trembling in my hand, the silence of the empty apartment screaming louder than any argument we'd ever had. The man I thought I was, the purpose I thought I had, it all seemed to unravel into nothingness. For a long time, I just existed. The betrayal had ripped a hole in me, leaving me disillusioned, adrift. The vibrant colors of my passion faded to a dull gray. I still went through the motions, showing up for meetings, tending to the projects already underway, but the fire was gone. Each step felt heavy, each conversation a forced effort. I questioned everything, every choice, every sacrifice. Was she right? Was I just a fool tilting at windmills? My North Philly neighborhood, once a source of endless inspiration, now felt like a mirror reflecting my own brokenness back at me. I walked those familiar streets, but I saw only the decay, the hopelessness, the insurmountable odds. The faces of the people I served, once a source of strength, now seemed to pity me, or worse, to confirm my failure. I spent nights staring at the ceiling, replaying her words, the cold finality of them. The pain was a physical weight, pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. I was lost in a desert of my own making, desperate for water, for a direction, for anything that could make me feel whole again. Then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, a flicker. It started with a child's laugh from a playground I had helped build, a splash of bright paint on a mural I had championed. I saw the pride in an elderly woman's eyes as she tended her small plot in a community garden, a garden I had helped cultivate. These small moments, these tangible results of my naive idealism, began to chip away at the despair. I remembered why I started, not for recognition, not for wealth, but for this. The anger at Sarah, the pain of her betrayal, began to shift. It wasn't about her anymore. It was about proving her wrong. Yes, but more importantly, it was about proving something to myself. It was about reclaiming my purpose. I channeled that renewed passion, that raw wound of betrayal, into something concrete, something monumental. I conceived of the Liberty Reborn Project, an audacious vision to transform entire blocks, not just with new buildings, but with self-sustaining ecosystems of opportunity. It meant securing federal grants, forging unlikely alliances with developers, city planners, and even rival community groups. It was grueling, relentless work, but the fire was back, burning brighter and hotter than ever before. This time, it wasn't just hope. It was a fierce, unyielding determination born from the ashes of despair. The Liberty Reborn Project became my obsession, my redemption. We started small, renovating a few abandoned row houses, turning them into affordable, energy-efficient homes. Then we tackled a derelict factory, transforming it into a community hub with a job training center, a small business incubator, and a health clinic. The momentum grew, block by block, turning forgotten corners into vibrant, self-sustaining neighborhoods. The project wasn't just about bricks and mortar, it was about empowering residents, giving them ownership, a voice, a stake in their future. I saw hope return to faces that had long been resigned to despair. The once whispering streets now hummed with activity, with children playing, with entrepreneurs dreaming. The success was undeniable, tangible, a living testament to what collective will and unwavering dedication could achieve. My name, once whispered with a mixture of pity and admiration, was now spoken with genuine respect. National news segments featured our work, showcasing the transformation of North Philadelphia, and soon, the city council came calling. They offered me a seat, an official platform to continue the work I had started on the streets. I accepted, not for the power, but for the amplified voice it gave to my community. I was a different man now, tempered by fire, stronger, clearer in my purpose. It was during one of those national news segments, a feature on urban revitalization, that Sarah reappeared. I saw her name pop up in my inbox, then on my phone, a ghost from a past I had meticulously rebuilt. Her political career, I had heard through the grapevine, had stalled after her senator husband's corruption scandal. The gilded cage she had chosen had crumbled, leaving her exposed. Now, she was contacting me, praising my leadership, my vision, subtly suggesting her political experience could be invaluable to my continued work. Her messages were slick, carefully worded, full of veiled admiration and thinly disguised self-interest. My success, the very success she had deemed impossible, was now something she wanted to attach herself to leverage. I read her words, a faint smile playing on my lips. There was no bitterness, no anger left, just a quiet sense of satisfaction. It wasn't about revenge, it was about the profound understanding that I had found my path, a path she had deemed worthless, and it had led me exactly where I was meant to be. I was no longer the naive idealist she had left behind. I was a man of substance, of tangible impact, and her manipulative overtures now felt hollow, irrelevant. The town hall meeting was packed. We were discussing a new phase of the Liberty Reborn Project, an expansion into even tougher areas, and the energy in the room was electric. I had just finished my impassioned speech, the words flowing from my heart, resonating with the very people whose lives we were changing. The applause was thunderous, genuine, a chorus of support that filled every corner of the old auditorium. As I moved through the crowd, shaking hands, accepting thanks, I saw her. Sarah. She was impeccably dressed, a study in polished composure, making her way towards me through the throng. Her smile was practiced, her eyes scanning the room, assessing, calculating. Kevin, she said, her voice low, slipping close amidst the noise, your vision is truly inspiring. With my connections, imagine what we could accomplish together, truly making a difference. Her tone was slick, a familiar manipulation I remembered all too well, a suggestion of a potential political partnership, a ride on my coattails. I looked at her, then at the faces around me, the faces of the residents who had trusted me, who had built this with me. My smile was polite, but my eyes, I knew, were firm, unwavering. Sarah, I replied, the difference I'm making is built on trust and genuine community engagement, not on political maneuvering. The man who needed your connections is long gone. This man builds legacies, not alliances of convenience. Her composure fractured, just for a moment. Her eyes, those calculating eyes, flickered with surprise, then a dawning realization. She tried to recover, a faint protest on her lips, but my gaze held hers, unwavering, reflecting the unshakable truth of my words. There was nothing left for her to say, no angle to play. Her carefully constructed overture had failed to sway me, failed to find purchase in the solid ground I had built beneath my feet. She retreated then, a subtle turn, melting back into the bustling crowd, her opportunistic attempts to ride my success firmly rejected. I watched her go, a figure fading into the background of the vibrant scene, and felt a deep satisfaction. It wasn't the satisfaction of personal victory over her, not a bitter triumph. It was something far more profound. It was the quiet joy of integrity, of knowing I had stayed true to myself, to my values, to the tangible positive change I had created in my community. The man who had been broken, betrayed, and deemed naive, now stood empowered, his purpose clear, his past manipulators rendered irrelevant. The noise of the crowd, the laughter, the hopeful chatter, it all swirled around me, a symphony of a life truly lived, truly earned.